and today we're diving down the Tube of Toons for the very first episode of Scoobuary, where we break down the trailer for Scooby Doo The Sword and the Scoob. Now, did I say Scoobuary? That's right, I did, because all this month we're going to be celebrating all things Scooby-Doo. Of course, I love Scooby-Doo, and we've had many videos about the franchise on this channel, but it has actually been a while. And I know a lot of you guys are big Scooby-Doo fans, and I thought, you know what? Give the people what they want. All this month throughout February, I'm going to be making Scooby-Doo videos, as well as maybe one or two other relevant videos. And why not kick things off with a look at the next Scooby-Doo movie that's being released later this month and break down the trailer. So The Sword and the Scoob is the next direct-to-video animated release from Warner Home Media in the Scooby-Doo franchise. It's been written and directed by Maxwell Atoms, who both wrote and directed the last film, Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo. This begs the question, does the film follow on from that? Is it a sort of sequel to that film? And while a lot of the direct-to-video Scooby-Doo films are normally self-contained stories and there isn't a lot of continuity, Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo actually followed on from the previous films Curse of the 13th Ghost and Return to Zombie Island, and so it is quite possible that this film will have at least somewhat loose continuity with those movies. And while the last film did sort of seem to wrap up that plotline, it definitely left room to be able to return to certain characters that were introduced in those films. However, due to the fact that a bulk of this film does seem to be taking place in medieval times, it does seem unlikely that those characters are going to pop up again here. But even if it doesn't follow up from Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, I think it is safe to expect that there will be a lot of similarities between the way the film was made, due to the fact that Maxwell Atoms worked on both. But even if it doesn't follow on from Happy Halloween, I think it's fair to say that it will probably share some of its DNA with that movie in the way that Maxwell Atoms likes to write and direct for the characters. I talked previously in my spoiler review of Happy Halloween how Maxwell Atoms actually went back and watched pretty much every incarnation of Scooby-Doo he could find, and he liked to pull lots of different influences from across the franchise, and he utilised them in the film, and he took different characterisations from different series and merged them together to create the versions that were seen in his film. And I feel like it's fairly safe to assume that we will be seeing the same versions, that's those same characterisations here again in this film. I expect the slightly more zany, Be Cool Scooby-Doo inspired Daphne, maybe, and the somewhat overly nerdy Velma. I could be wrong, but that's just what I'm assuming going in. So they're definitely things we need to look out for as we break down this trailer. So right from the start we can see that the gang are travelling to jolly old England. Why am I saying it like that? I'm English. And they're going to London! Because they always go to London when they go to England, because that's apparently the only city in England. Well, it is the capital, and you can see there's a little montage of them seeing all the different tourist sites. You know, they're getting photos with the Beefeaters, Big Ben. Although it doesn't seem like London is the gang's final destination, you do see them pull up at a small old town, like a medieval tourist trap, a Renaissance fair type thing. Not too sure what it is, but it's possible maybe they just did a day trip in London and now they've gone exploring. Maybe this town is closer to Stonehenge, where we see them go later in the trailer, which I should note isn't actually in London. It is down south, but it is about a 2-hour drive from London, I checked. So it's not exactly close. I mean, the film might make it seem close. They always like to portray England as being incredibly small, so that's always a possibility. And then we see the villain of this film, Morgane Le Fay of Arthurian legend, more commonly known as Morgana. And it appears she's an actual sorceress using real magic. And if it was just Morgana, I probably would assume it's just someone in a Morgana costume, probably using some sort of holograms and pyrotechnics to fake the magic. And while that is still possible, the fact that this film seems to be featuring time travel, which I'd argue is something that's a lot harder for them to fake and pull the rug out from under us, implies that if the time travel's real, well, the magic's real, which is huge. I mean, it's not that Scooby-Doo hasn't had real supernatural elements and magic in it before, but it doesn't seem to be something that Warner Bros. Has been going for in the recent years. In fact, the previous films, Curse of the 13th Ghost and Return to Zombie Island, actually went out of their way to explain away the supernatural elements of earlier iterations of the franchise. And they've been trying to focus on a much more grounded, realistic take on the gang. So it's definitely interesting that it seems that magic and time travel are really at play here. Of course, it's still possible that the magic isn't real and Morgana turns out to be a fraud, but the time travel very much seems like it is going to be real, unless of course they have a whole town of people that are in it to try and trick the gang. But to what end? Although I suppose the film could always end with a reveal that it was all a dream, which I really hope they don't do. But I just don't have much faith that Warner Brothers would have allowed them to just go out there and do crazy real magic and time travel, because it's just not what this series has been doing recently. But speaking of the time travel, let's have a look at the time travel, because it appears that when the gang get to Stonehenge, Morgana reverses time and they travel back in time to the Dark Ages, the medieval times, to King Arthur's court, which I will say was the working title of the film, Scooby Doo in King Arthur's Court. As they travel through time, you see previous moments from the gang's past flash before them in the time stream. You see clips from the special Scooby Doo Blowout Beach Beastie. You see some clips of Velma giving a tour of the museum from Scooby Doo Mystery Incorporated. And you also see some clips from a pup named Scooby Doo. And I do think it's interesting that they're the ones that they chose to use as the gang's history. It almost implies that those shows are in continuity with this movie. And we also know that from the last film, Happy Halloween Scooby-Doo, that they were some of Maxwell Atoms' favourite things to pull from, as the previous film featured many references to both incarnations. And while we're talking about Easter eggs and different influences that have been used in this film, we do see a clip earlier on in the trailer when the gang is still in the present day, where the gang visit a library and you see them all crowded around a book, much like they were in the very first episode of Scooby-Doo Where Are You? What a Night for a Night. A clip most people are very familiar with, as it was actually featured in the opening theme of Scooby-Doo Where Are You? And has been recreated many times. So like I said, the gang have travelled back in time and they are in Camelot, not that one. And this looks fun, it looks great, it does appear that they have actually travelled back in time. You can see that Stonehenge is no longer all fallen over. It looks like it was newly built. Camelot looks newly built. It doesn't look old and in ruins. You know, all these things are very much making us think that the gang have definitely travelled back in time and this isn't some sort of ruse. And it looks great, it looks fun. You get to see the gang play out different medieval roles. Fred trying to be a knight and jousting. Scooby and Shaggy in a more court jestery type role, and we also definitely get to see Daphne kick some butt, which is another thing that has been used throughout the Scooby-Doo franchise, particularly in the more recent years. For instance, the live action films and some of the What's New Scooby-Doo episodes and films have played into this idea that Daphne can kick some butt. But we haven't actually seen it in a while, and it's great to see it here, particularly if they are incorporating it into a more zany personality that she had in the last film. And then we see Shaggy use 0.1% of his powers to pull Excalibur from the stone, which does make me wonder, if Arthur's already king, why is the sword in the stone? Maybe that's just where he keeps it? Well, of course, if you are able to pull the sword out of the stone, that means you can be King of England. That's right, just like Captain America, Shaggy is worthy. And we do see then that Shaggy does seem to be being treated as equal to King Arthur. You see them hanging out together. And throughout this trailer, we do see that King Arthur does seem to be just as goofy as Scooby and Shaggy, which is definitely not what you'd expect from King Arthur. But I think it's a great idea and I can't wait to watch it unfold. But then just when everything seems like all fun and games, we see that Morgana kidnaps Shaggy, and so with that, Arthur decides to knight all of the gang and they go off on a quest to rescue Shaggy from Morgana and the dragon's lair. And this looks like it's going to be an incredibly fun adventure. They're going to have to save Shaggy, escape the dragon's lair, and it appears that they're going to have to try and tame the dragon, as we do see them riding on it later in the trailer. I actually cannot wait for this film. It looks super fun. I love the idea of the gang travelling back in time. It's something that's different, and they've not been allowed to do things that are a little bit more out there. They've had to sort of stay quite grounded recently. So the idea of the gang travelling back in time, particularly to somewhere like medieval Camelot, that sounds super fun and sounds like something we actually haven't seen in the show's 50+ year history. I'd love to see more of this. The gang can travel back to any time in history. Maybe they can travel to the future. Scooby-Doo is one of those archetypical shows that you can put in almost any situation and make it work. And so it is nice to see that they are sort of breaking from the formula slightly to give us these more outlandish adventures, and I cannot wait to see it when it drops later this month. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. That's pretty much everything I've got to say on the trailer. I think we've broke it down as much as we can without maybe going frame by frame. That's a little bit much even by my standards. But if you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. It really helps out the channel and lets it get seen by more people. And if you want to stick around and see more videos, why don't you hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell to be notified the next time we dive down the Tube of Toons this Scoobuary. Alright everyone, cheers. Thanks for watching Tube of Toons. If you want more from the channel, hit subscribe. If you want to keep up to date with what's going on, follow us on our socials. Hope you liked it. Cheers.